Good evening from Wyoming Public Radio. Coming up in just a moment, we'll be joining at a forum at the Albany County Public Library in Laramie to hear live from some of the candidates for Wyoming Secretary of State. We're hosting this event in partnership with the League of Women Voters and WyoFile.
Welcome our live audience here and our online audience to this evening's candidate forum for the office of Secretary of State. I'm Michelle Escudero, a League board member and volunteer. The League of Wyoming is pleased to host tonight's forums and 5 additional forums with our partners, Wyoming Public Media and WyoFile. Additionally, we thank our local partners, the Laramie League of Women Voters and Albany County Public Library, for their support of these forums and the Superintendent of Public Instruction Forum being held tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Albany County Public Library. The League of Women Voters of Wyoming is a nonpartisan grassroots organization that is part of the National League of Wyoming Voters, founded in 1920. The League believes citizens play a crucial role in our democracy through informed, active participation in our government. The League is dedicated to voter education, promoting voting rights, and providing information that helps voters make informed decisions at the polls. The League does not support or endorse any candidate running for office. The League distributes unbiased voter information through the online voter guide vote411.org and creates opportunities like tonight's forum for voters to hear directly from candidates and make their own informed decisions. Tonight's forum is being live streamed by Wyoming Public Media and recorded by the Albany County Public Library and will be available online directly following this forum at the Wyoming League, Wyoming Public Media, WyoFile, vote411.org websites, and of course, at the Albany County Public Library website and their YouTube channel. Thank you to our moderator, Marilyn Kite, and our panelists, Maggie Mullen of WyoFile and Jordan Uplinger of Wyoming Public Media. We thank the candidates for running for elected office. This is a commitment of your time, your energy, and emotional and mental strength, and we thank you. Now finally, please welcome our moderator for tonight's forum, Marilyn Kite, who will introduce the guidelines and begin tonight's event.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Kite, and I will be serving as your moderator. The purpose of tonight's forum is to introduce you, the voter, to those candidates who will hope to serve the public as the Wyoming Secretary of State. The League of Women Voters believes these forums are a way for our voting citizens to learn more about the candidates. First up will be our 3 Republican candidates, Quentin Oviatt, Robert Short, and C.J. Young. The Democratic candidate for this office is uncontested, so we will hear from him or her during the general election. We have not shared these questions with the candidates in advance. We have allowed the candidates to do their own research and bring whatever notes they would like to have. Audience, please silence your cell phones and we will get started. Tonight's Republican primary election forum will feature the following candidates for the office of Secretary of State: Quentin Oviatt, Robert Short, and C.J. Young. Only one of these candidates, the one with the most votes in the primary election, only one of these candidates, the one with the most votes in the primary election, will move on to the general election statewide. Tonight's forum is on a restricted time schedule. The candidates will receive up to 1 minute to make an introductory statement, and the stated time to answer each question, and finally up to 1 minute for their closing. We do have timekeepers here tonight in the front row, Jamie Egolf and Jerry Winkle, who are members of the local league, and they will hold up signs when you have 30 seconds left and when to stop. Here are the rules for tonight. This is a forum, not a debate. You will be asked a question and you will have a set time to answer the question. We will note the time limit when we ask the question. We'll be rotating which of you answers the question first. We ask that everyone be respectful and courteous. We would like you to answer the question for yourself, avoiding personal attacks on other candidates. Candidates, you are to address your answers to the audience and not to the other candidates. Please do not engage with the other candidates. You will be advised when there is 15 seconds remaining and when time is up, and I will stop you, or the timekeepers will stop you if you go over the time limit. Candidates, please turn off your phones. Candidates are not allowed to wear earbuds. Private recording of the forums are not allowed. Candidates, if you would like the question repeated, please do not hesitate to ask. And audience, in addition to silencing your cell phones, we ask that you not clap or vocalize either your support or your displeasure. First, we would like to start with an introductory statement, and the candidates, you will have up to 1 minute to provide that statement. Mr. Oviatt, you are up first.
All right. Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight and for your continued work in strengthening our democracy. My name is Quentin Eagle Oviatt. I'm from Fremont County. I'm a graduate of Lander Valley High School and of the University of Wyoming here in Laramie, so it's great to be back here and see some old friends. I'm running for this office because I bring a diverse experience to this campaign. I've worked in the Wyoming oil fields. I've completed multiple deployments in Antarctica with the National Science Foundation. I've worked for conservation organizations and built small businesses in this state. I'm an Eagle Scout and a certified mediator, and currently I serve as an academic advisor at Central Wyoming College. I'm not a career politician, and this is the first office I've ever run for. I'm running because Wyoming's government is sick, and it needs practical, collaborative leadership. I believe we can secure our elections, protect our businesses from scammers, and bring people together instead of creating more division. Thank you.
Mr. Short, you're up.
Thank you very much to the League of Women Voters, to WyoFile, and Wyoming Public Media for putting on this forum, and thank you all for participating. My name is Robert Short, and in the 30 seconds that are left, I will give you the complete rundown of my life. Or I'll just say, please refer to shortforstate.com to learn more about me. I'm running because I believe that the Secretary of State's office requires leadership that I bring to the table in all my experience in both national and international businesses, domestic as well as interstate. I bring a plethora of experience as a Wyoming County Commissioner. 12 years I've served, and currently I am the Wyoming County Commissioners Association Vice President. I understand what collaboration means, and I understand what work, getting the job done actually means, and I believe that it matters. I also know how to work and make decisions when groups don't get along, because it turns out that in a board of 5, there may not be a lot of agreement, but you have to come to a consensus somehow, and that's not done through violence or anger. It's done through work with sound reasoning, following the data. Thank you.
Mr. Young, it's your turn.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to be back in Laramie. Thank you to everyone for putting it on. Thank you to the audience for being here tonight. So, my name is C.J. Young. I'm running for Wyoming Secretary of State. I'm from Carpenter County, outside of Rawlins originally. Grew up on a ranch. And a little bit about my background. I'm a currently serving United States Navy Reserve officer. I own a small business in Cheyenne, brick and mortar retail. And I also have over a decade of experience in state government, including I had the privilege to serve as Wyoming's elections director, where I worked for administering our last general election in 2024. So I bring a fairly wide background of experience with me, and I want to bring that to work in the Secretary of State's office. It's something that I've worked in before. It's something I know how to do, and I'm ready to get started on day one. Thank you. Now
for the first question. You each have 1 minute to answer the question. And the first question is coming from Maggie Mullen from WyoFile.
The Secretary of State is tasked both with business regulation and overseeing elections in Wyoming. Every office holder balances those duties differently. What will be your top priorities within those two mandates?
Mr. Short, you're first this time. Sorry.
Thank you. And thanks for the question, Ms. Mullen. My priority is obviously associated with business regulation and registration in Wyoming. We have over 800,000 LLCs registered in Wyoming, and there's a great concern that some of these LLCs may be doing things necessarily for their benefit and not necessarily for the benefit of Wyoming and Wyoming's constituents. And I think it's important that we really take a hard look at how these folks are operating, and are they actually just using us as a way to circumvent their responsibility. Secondly, as a former election judge, I really do understand how elections are run in Wyoming. Over the past 44 years, we've had 4 prosecutable cases of election issues. So I think that devoting a great amount of time to elections is not necessary, because our clerks and the volunteers who work them do a spectacular job. They need a partner in the office, not a persecutor.
Mr. Young?
That's a really good question. So I think there is a balance between the two. They are both very busy divisions. The elections at a certain time of year gets, obviously, as we know, extremely busy. As the past elections director, I've been there on elections night. I know how it works. I know the systems. I helped stand up Wyoming's Election Security Task Force. I can tell you there are real threats to our elections, foreign and domestic, so we need to safeguard those. But that's in cyber, that's in a lot of different areas, sometimes kind of behind the scenes. We need to restore people's trust in those elections through showing them that they can trust it. We also need to partner with the clerks. They are great resources. We can trust them, and that's somebody we need to work with heavily. As far as business, that is a big deal. The business division is extremely busy. It has a lot going on, and we need to modernize it. That's going to be the key. We have to get some new software in there. We have to free up some staff time, and that allows us to look with that freed up staff time at some of those businesses that do want to act in bad faith in Wyoming, and that would be something I'd work towards. I'd also want to bring in, I'm out of time. Okay. Save it for later. Okay.
Mr. Oviatt, it's your turn.
All right. To reiterate what's already been set up here, I agree that it is an important balance, and it's going to depend on the year. Obviously, on election years, you're going to spend more time working on elections and dealing with that, rightfully so. But the business regulation side of it is very important too, because I heard recently that in Wyoming we have almost as many businesses registered as we have citizens in the state, and not all of those are honest entrepreneurs. There's a lot of fraud in there, and that is going to be something that the next Secretary of State is going to have to start tackling day one. And there's some good ideas up here, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more of them.
Thank you, candidates. The next 7 questions are all topically related and will be asked rapid fire style. Try to give each of those about 10 seconds, yes, no, or I don't know the answer. And you're welcome to follow up with a longer answer in your closing. The questions will be asked by Jordan Uplinger of the Wyoming Public Radio. He will rotate the questions to each of the candidates, and you will, excuse me, Jordan, it's your turn.
I'll ask the questions, and then she'll let you guys answer
you.
as we go here. Do you support secure ballot drop boxes?
Mr. Young?
Yes. I think when they're done right.
Mr. Oviatt?
100% yes, as do the county clerks.
Mr. Short?
Absolutely.
Do you support mail-in ballots?
Mr. Oviatt?
Yes, when they're done correctly, they're just as secure as ballot drop boxes.
Mr. Short?
Absolutely.
Mr. Young?
Yes, Wyoming does elections well, so I do support them.
Current state law requires registered voters to choose their political party before candidates have filed to run for office. Do you support voters being able to change their political party at any time?
Mr. Short?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
No.
Mr. Oviatt?
Yes, 100%.
Voters in Wyoming face some unique challenges to getting to the ballot box. weather, distance, shift workers like coal miners, etc. Do you support absentee voting for anyone who wants it?
Mr. Oviatt?
And provided they meet all the qualifications, I see no reason why I couldn't support it. Yes.
Mr. Short?
We should make voting as easy as possible in Wyoming, yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes, I also support that. Easy to vote, hard to cheat is my motto.
Do you support hand counting of ballots?
Mr. Short?
I am not a fan of hand counting. I understand the clerks will count a small portion this year, and I do support that.
Mr. Young?
No, I do not support general hand counting, but I do believe the hand audits are appropriate as we passed into law.
Mr. Oviatt?
I completely agree with what both candidates just said before me.
Last question. Do you support the ability of someone dropping off other people's ballots, like from a retirement home?
Mr. Young?
Yes, as long as we follow all the rules and statute.
Mr. Oviatt?
Yes, I agree. Some people, especially in retirement homes, they definitely need that.
Mr. Short?
Ditto.
Thank you, candidates. The next question, you will have 90 seconds to answer. And you will, Maggie Mullen will be asking questions.
This one is a two-parter. Over the past few years, there's been a national discussion about who should manage elections: federal officials, state officials, or local county clerks. What do you see as the relationship between these entities? And what, if anything, would you like to see change, and why?
Mr. Short, you're first.
I feel so blessed. I do not support anybody other than what is constitutionally and statutorily defined in our state as the clerks running elections in each of our counties. I believe that the federal government has no business whatsoever trying to mandate how elections are run in states, because it turns out that each individual county has their own personality, and their ability to run elections that suits the constituency of that county cannot be mandated by the feds. It cannot be mandated at the state level. We have to be understanding that the county clerks who operate elections in our state, they care about what they do. And they do it with volunteers that are your mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, fathers, nephews, nieces, sons and daughters, friends and neighbors. And to assert that something nefarious would happen with those folks involved, I find it disingenuous and incredibly insulting. So no, I do not believe there is any role for the federal government nor for the state government to dip their fingers into the election process that is clearly defined both statutorily and constitutionally as it's run by county clerks in our great state.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
So, yeah, I've been there when we run them, right? Wyoming runs elections well. I do not support the feds taking over the elections. I think that's the wrong move. I would oppose anything like that would happen. I think the important role of the state and the Secretary of State is uniformity and its support. Support for our county clerks and our local officials, providing the training, the resources, and what they need to be successful. I think our clerks do a great job. I worked with many of them personally. I trust them. They're great people. They do good work and they care in their communities. So one of the things I would want to do if I was secretary is I want to try and develop a staff position that would be able to go out on demand to help train on new staff in our counties and help support our local city election officials as well. So whoever needs it, we can provide that training that goes out and supports them and helps teach them the best practices in elections. And that also leads towards one of the main goals of the Secretary of State's office is uniformity among the counties. So yes, I support our clerks, I support state-run elections, and I do not support a federal takeover of elections.
Mr. Oviatt?
Yes, the U.S. Constitution is quite clear that the power to run elections both start and stop with the state. So that's the end of that for me. I also support the county clerks. I think it would be the job of the Secretary of State to help them in whatever they need. They are asking for more training. I've heard that from several of them, and I like the idea of a position where they can go out on demand and help them in the field. That sounds great. And I do think some of them are asking for a little bit more uniformity too, and just to have questions answered when they make a call, have somebody on the other end that's actually going to pick up and listen to them. I think that's the most important part.
Thank you, candidates. Any follow-up questions, Maggie? Candidates, the next question you have up to 1 minute to answer, and Jordan will be asking the question.
Wyoming's top 5 statewide elected officials are also tasked with managing school trust lands and investments to maximize income for the state through leasing. That includes the Secretary of State. How will you weigh public opposition against a leasee's right to do the projects they've been permitted to do under state law and regulations?
Mr. Young, you're first.
So when it comes to these issues, I think it's important to remember that those boards have a fiduciary duty. They are supposed to generate income to support the schools, right? That's part of what we do. I also think it's important that when folks come before the boards, they know the rules, they know what's going to happen, there's some predictability, and we measure each decision based on the facts, not just on politics. We need to look at it on a case-by-case basis and see what is beneficial for our community, and when it makes sense, we need to support those proposals on those boards to continue to support our schools and developing our resources. So I think that it's important to have a board that works together, and I think we have many members of the board that do work together well. I think sometimes there can be some friction, but I think it's important to always stay professional and congenial and build a partnership.
Mr. Oviatt?
Yes, I mean, we have to understand that they do have a mandate to get as big a return on the investment as possible for our schools and for the other beneficiaries. But that doesn't mean you can't collaborate with the locals on the ground there and take everything into the process when you're looking at it. And yeah, I agree, a case-by-case basis, there should be no wide-arching standing policy on that. And yeah, it's collaboration. We need to work together. All 5 people talk. There should be no political grandstanding. There should be no taking advantage of parliamentary procedure for just politicking. Work for the Wyoming people. Go in, do the work, and get the job done so we can all go home.
Mr. Short?
There's not a whole lot to say after that. However, I do believe that constitutionally it is very clear those lands are to be managed for the benefit of schools, period. So we must manage them in a way that maximizes revenue in a sustainable manner, and we cannot disregard what the Constitution tells us we have to do. However, with all of that said, I believe that it is incumbent on us to help our legislature come up with a way that there is maybe an encouragement for project proponents to bring those projects to the locals prior to bringing it to SLIB, or the State Board of Land Commissioners, so that locals have an opportunity to be heard, because most of the backlash that we hear right now is from projects that have been permitted without public input, and they feel they've been slighted. Now, there is no constitutional directive that says it has to happen, but if we really want to serve the people, then I think it would be incumbent on us to take a little bit of consideration into effect associated with the locals. As a county commissioner, it's what I do day in and day out, and I think it's important. That's how you build collaboration and build sustainable and durable solutions.
Thank you, candidates. The next question has 2 parts, and you have 1 minute for each answer.
Bless you.
Mr. Oviatt, you are first.
Wyoming has a business-friendly system for anonymously setting up shop in Wyoming for $50 to $100 a pop. That's led to tens of thousands of new businesses registering here, often without actually stepping foot in Wyoming. Here's part 1. Do you see the state's current regulatory setup leaving the door open for sketchy actors to operate out of the state? What would you change?
Yes, it definitely is leaving it open for sketchy actors. Ask anybody who works in the Sheridan law enforcement, and they'll tell you, I've heard so many stories. But what needs to change, first of all, we need to have top-tier screening software implemented so that we can catch some of these fraudulent bad actors on the front end of things. And then we need a position within the Secretary of State's office to actually investigate and follow up so that they can turn these information that they find over to local law enforcement or even FBI so they can prosecute these bad actors and make Wyoming not as appealing to the fraudsters while still staying open to true entrepreneurs.
Mr. Short?
I think Quentin did a great job of summarizing the fact that this is something that it has potential to be abused. And I think that we really need to work with our legislature. Last session, a bill was introduced to start moving the needle in that direction, and I think that that's something that has to go forward. Obviously, without laws to enforce, the Secretary of State's office is neutered. So we have to have the statutory authority to be able to pursue these things. Currently, it does not exist. Senator Barry Crago introduced a bill last session that would start moving the needle in that direction, and it's something that we need to do if we really want to protect the interests of Wyoming citizens. We don't want to impinge on the ability of businesses to operate in our state, but by the same token, we don't want to invite in those folks who want to take advantage of us.
Mr. Young?
Well, yes, I do concur with a lot of what has been said here. I think the key is Wyoming is business friendly. We're the #2 in the nation right now after Delaware. And I think that's a good thing. The Secretary of State's office generates revenue for the state. It is one of the largest revenue generators as far as an agency goes for the state. And that comes down to we do have very business friendly laws. I think we want to stay business friendly. I do think we can do more on the back end with the Secretary of State's office. As already has been mentioned, I also support an investigator coming in that can look at concerns and prepare an objective report into those concerns, as well as the software that can let us know are some of these companies have problems, have they been flagged other places. We know that exists, and again, that frees up staff time. I've done business filings, they're very time consuming, so if we can free up those staff hours, it would make a big difference and help keep some of those sketchy actors out of our state.
Is there a follow-up?
There is a part 2. The system has also led to Wyomingites' home addresses being named as new business locations when they have nothing to do with the business. How would you propose to protect Wyomingites from getting scammed like this?
Let's go in the same order we did, Mr. Oviatt.
Okay. Well, part of it starts with education. You have to educate people so that they can be vigilant and be aware of that. And then once they find out if they are being taken advantage of in that way, you need to educate them of the resources that are available. They can go down to the local to their county courthouse, and there are people there that I've talked to. They can clear that up pretty quickly. They're very very efficient at that. That's their job, and they're good at it. But yeah, I think the number one way to stop that or to address it is education.
Mr. Short?
And I believe there's an opportunity here, again, to employ AI across the board in order to actually start comparing data against addresses and residential addresses and folks who are registering those businesses so that we can utilize an existing tool to help us weed out those folks that are utilizing our business laws to register businesses in a fraudulent activity specifically so that they can do whatever it is they do. I believe it's something that can be done relatively well and relatively streamlined through the utilization of technology.
Mr. Young?
Well, I do concur that we need to have the software. That's key. We need to have the education component. I think that's also a big part of it. Additionally, maybe it's working. I can't tell. Additionally, I think that we need to look at one of the things I do is I want to work on revamping the Secretary of State's website. And I think you can do a 2-part portal, right? One part is for new businesses. You create a one-stop shop, tells people where to go, how to get everything set up for their business. But you also need to have a section where people can go to find their resources if they believe they have been a victim of fraud or had their address stolen for a fraudulent business in Wyoming. Tells them how to report, what to do, what steps to go through, and then our office can work with them to help on that as well as connect them in with anyone else that can help.
Thank you, candidates. You now each have up to 1 minute for closing remarks or to address something additional that you think needs to be addressed. So let's start with Mr. Short. You're first.
First again, I feel so blessed. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you here this evening. I really do believe that Wyoming is a wonderful place, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything possible to give your great-great-grandchildren the opportunity to stay here. That comes from a person who has built businesses, multiple businesses in Wyoming. I was the largest employer in Glen Rock with over 120 employees. I understand what it takes to build opportunity here. As a county commissioner, I've been very active, and I understand what it takes to collaborate and to look outside the windows of what we think are normalcy and figure out ways to be creative and problem solve, building opportunities that kids see as a reason for them to stay and prosper. I appreciate your consideration on August 18th. I'm Robert Short. Go to shortforstate.com and learn more about this fool.
Mr. Young?
All right, well, thank you, panelists, organizers, my fellow candidates, and everyone who joined us this evening. I think this election is just about choosing the leadership. Oop, switch.
That is the strangest thing.
Yeah, it keeps doing it. Oh.
I just want you to.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Well, so I think the Secretary of State should be someone who understands the job, who can lead from day one, who isn't afraid to make the decisions based on the facts, and who treats every Wyoming citizen with respect. I believe my experience as the Wyoming's elections director, my background in public service, my work as a small business owner, and my continued military service have prepared me to do exactly that. If I'm fortunate enough to earn your vote, I will work every day to leave the office stronger than I found it, more secure, more transparent, more responsive, and better prepared for the future. I'd be honored to serve as your next secretary, and I really appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you so much. I'd be honored for your vote.
Mr. Oviatt?
Thank you. I believe Wyoming is full of good people, but Wyoming's government is sick. It's been infected by outside bodies, federal overreach, special interests, and scammers. But Wyoming has an immune system. It's the county clerks who do their jobs with integrity, the citizens who still show up, and the everyday people who refuse to let this state become something that it was never meant to be. By running for Secretary of State, I'm trying to bolster that immune system, to give it real tools, to push the infection out instead of just managing the symptoms. Here's the truth about any living thing. Most cells in your body aren't out there fighting cancer or infection. They're just doing their jobs, metabolizing oxygen, turning food into energy, and eliminating waste, and keeping the whole organism alive and moving forward. And that's most of us. We're working, raising our kids, paying our bills, and living our lives. But we can vote. And when we vote with purpose, when we engage, and when we turn every citizen into part of Wyoming's immune system, I'm asking you to activate that immune system with me. Let's strengthen it, clean out what doesn't belong, and get Wyoming's government healthy again. My name is Quentin Eagle-Oviatt, and I would appreciate your vote on August 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. I want to thank you on behalf of Wyoming citizens and voters for putting yourself out there and being willing to serve this state. This concludes the primary election forum for Secretary of State, and we thank the voters in the room and the voters across the state that have been listening. We will take a quick break and come back with an interview of one of the candidates for State Treasurer, Kurt Meyer. Thank you.
Audience and the online audience to this evening's candidate forum for the office of Wyoming State Treasurer. I am Michelle Escudero, and I'm a League board member as well as a volunteer. The League of Wyoming is pleased to host tonight's forum and 5 additional forums with our partners, Wyoming Public Media and WyoFile. Additionally, we thank our local partners, the Laramie League of Women Voters and the Albany County Public Library, for their support of these forums and the Superintendent of Public Instruction Forum being held tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in the Albany County Public Library. The League of Women Voters of Wyoming is a nonpartisan grassroots organization that is part of the National League of Women Voters, founded in 1920. The League believes citizens play a crucial role in our democracy through informed, active participation in our government. The League is dedicated to voter education, promoting voting rights, and providing information that helps voters make informed decisions at the polls. The League does not support or endorse any candidate running for office. The League distributes unbiased voter information through the online voter guide, vote411.org, and creates opportunities like tonight's forum for voters to hear directly from candidates and make their own informed decisions. Tonight's forum is being live streamed by Wyoming Public Media and recorded by the Albany County Public Library and will be available online after the forum on the League's website, Wyoming Public Media, WyoFile, Vote 411 websites, and of course at the Albany County Public Library website and their YouTube channel. This election season, the League will host numerous local candidate forums in Laramie, Cheyenne, Gillette, Fremont County, Jackson, and Rock Springs. For forum dates, please visit wyominglwv.org. Tonight, one of the two Republican candidates running for state treasurer, Kurt Meyer, is with us. Candidate Scott Smith informed us that he had a previous commitment in Natrona County and was unable to attend. When a qualified candidate is absent from a public forum, voters lose the opportunity to hear, compare, and evaluate the full range of perspectives before casting their ballots. The League believes hearing directly from the candidates is an important element of informed decisions. Therefore, we will continue with one candidate in a format that we call an interview-style event. With that, please welcome our moderator for tonight's forum, Marilyn Kite, who will introduce the guidelines and begin tonight's event.
Thank you. Good evening, and good evening, Mr. Meyer. My job is going to be a little different here than it was in our previous forum where we were asking specific questions and having tight time limits, but we are going to have time goals, so we have about the same amount of time spent on this office as we did the previous one. So I welcome the audience back, both the audience that's here tonight and the audience online. We are here with Kurt Meyer to talk about the role of the state treasurer. And you will have about 2 minutes to answer each of these individual questions, but would you first start with telling us a little bit of an opening statement, if you will, or a little bit about yourself before I ask you the substantive questions?
You bet. My name's Kurt Meyer. I am running for treasurer, and I can tell you that I really got prepared for this job by being in the state legislature for a good deal of time. I was on the Wyoming retirement system, which is a multi-billion-dollar system itself, as a liaison. And this is a funny story, is that they used to make their decisions about who to spend $300 million on who bought the best bottle of wine the night before. Well, I knew that was a problem. We didn't have any at all financial experience, on the board or in the office. And so we changed that. And so what I've been doing, is basically working off the experience, because most of the rules and regulations and things that basically make my job either hard or easy, I helped create. And so I knew what the job was when I was coming in.
Thank you. Could you give us a summary or a rundown of what the Treasurer's Office itself is responsible for?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the 2-minute limit.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. First of all, we got we started with $19 billion. Now we got $34 billion of assets under management. Some people think that's a big slush bucket out there, and they're going to, by golly, they're going to cut you a check and pay your taxes. Most of these are trust funds. In fact, almost all of them are trust funds, or they're funds that are in a checking account for agencies on a specific purpose voted on by the legislature or the people of Wyoming. So let's kind of draw the ring around that. And so we can't make just huge tax outlays. Now, so that's part of it. Unclaimed properties is another part. We actually got $43 million returned back to Wyoming citizens and other claimants. We can go into that a little bit later in the deal, and that's part of it there. The other thing, I'm on the WCDA board, and essentially my duties there are the community development block grants and actually helping people get in their first houses and contractors build apartments.
How would you describe the Treasurer's Office as being different from the Auditor's Office, just for all of us out in the real world, don't know the difference?
Okay, well, we'll make it simple. We make the money, the auditor writes the checks. So that's pretty much the way it is. We work hand in hand to make sure that the money that we got in there, that they understand which pot it actually goes into and where it came from. Essentially, when I got there, we had to work on what we call the people, the processes, and the systems in our office. The people came from a time when essentially what they did in their previous job as accountants was to open a drawer, bring out a sheet of coupons, take the scissors out, clip the coupons, stick it in the envelope, send it away. They got a check and a great big green accounting book. They put that journal in when the money came back. So that was what we started with. Now, what we have today is that through a process of education, the people that could cut the grade, they stayed there. In a process of actually taking 432 spreadsheets and developing a system that we actually now, the managers, report to the accounting system, and we go basically, rather than taking a sheet and going from one desk to the next desk that was carbon, it's actually electronic now. And so that has made a huge difference. We didn't know where to put the money if we sold something or where to get the money if we wanted to buy something. Now we have basically daily cash balances on everything. And so our investment teams actually know everywhere that we're going. And this is I'll tell you about how we actually figured out our Plaid sub-accounting in a second.
What are the biggest challenges you see facing the Office of the Treasurer, and how have you been addressing those challenges?
Well, I'll go into Plaid sub-accounting. Essentially, when I started, we had 43 managers, 11 pools. Now we got 70-some managers, and I think we've moved that up to 13 pools. And so we had to figure out how to account for, every pool, every manager, and the 13 asset classes that we do. And so I do my best thinking about 3 o'clock at night. I came up with a proportional summation formula. We gave it to a guy that knows Python, frontwards and backwards, and another guy that knows more math than I'll ever know, or probably forgot more math than I'll ever know. And we actually got it programmed, gave it to J.P. Morgan, and that was the genesis of actually understanding, how we could account for it. And that everything that we do, we first ask the accounting, if we have new asset classes, or we have different things that are going on, we go to accounting first and say, if we do this, do you know what we're doing? Because the whole team has to work together. And what I look at it as system, processes, and people. We work with the people, we're working with the systems, and there's some things that we need to do that make our office more like the retirement system, which we built from scratch, that'll actually make a lot of difference in the people's lives in Wyoming.
Thank you. The state income from investments seems to be starting to outpace the income from our typical revenue streams like royalties on fossil fuels and sales taxes. So there's a few different questions here, but how did we get to the point where the income from our investments is so important?
Well, I think we got there really, and this is something that I did and worked on appropriations when I was there with Phil Nicholas, is that we had a problem budgeting. We didn't know whether we were going to get $100 million out of investments or we were going to get $600 or $700 million out of investments. So what we did is that we said, okay, we're going to have to smooth this out and get stable, adequate funding. And so we did that in the PMTF. We've done that in the schools, and we've done that in every trust fund that we have, all 30-some billion dollars of it. And essentially what you have is you have 5% of a 5-year average of your assets under management. And then we put, to backstop that, we have reserve funds that if we get into a downturn for 3 or 4 years and it's really a wreck, the reserve funds can keep us afloat and make sure that we make that 5% for probably 4 to 5 years. So that's part of it.
How do you think that this fact that the investments are becoming so important, is opposed, and not as opposed, but in addition to the other sources of income, what do you think that means for Wyoming's future financially?
Well, I think that it means that we got that backstop there, because we have the legislative stabilization reserve account, and Last year it came in at about 1.9 billion. Now I think it's around 1.3 or 1.4. A lot of times that is funded by unrealized capital gains in the beginning of the year that are realized later. And so we have that backstop, and it actually, because we've taken the volatility out of with the diversification of our assets, we know that we're going to have that. Now, if we had assets that were, say, a 50-50 stocks and bonds, we back-tested that over 20 years, and that actually gets us into trouble a couple of times where we almost dip into our corpus when the stock market busts. And this last thing during COVID, the stock market and bonds went down at the same time, and that was because basically the economy. They made interest rates low, and then they made interest rates high. When they made interest rates high, the value of your bonds went down. At the same time, stocks weren't doing that well. At one time, we were 44% down right after COVID in the stock market.
We hear a lot of talk about Wyoming having invested millions of dollars into creating a stable token.
Yes.
Now, having had this explained to me many times over by many different people, let's see if you can educate me. The Frontier token is now alive and available.
And will be at the Cheyenne Frontier Days, free for people to give it a try.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
How will the state make money off of this cryptocurrency, and do you see it paying for itself over time?
There is the first thing that I will make a slight correction. It is not cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Bitcoin is cryptocurrency. Stablecoins are 102% protected by U.S. Treasuries. Short-term U.S. Treasuries, overnight repos, and short-term Treasuries. So I had a person ask me in Sheridan, well, isn't it FDI insured? I said, it's protected by 102% U.S. Treasuries. Well, isn't it FDI insured? Well, essentially, it is insured by the federal government with short-term overnight treasuries. Now, how we make money on this, and this is something for people that really love charities and international charities should pay attention to, is that when you make a $1,000 donation to an African charity and it goes into their local currency, that $1,000 could be worth absolutely nothing in a matter of hours, days, or months. That's their inflation. If you make that donation in a stable coin, it's backed by 100% U.S. Treasuries. It can stay within that economy forever. And the only inflation we have is if our U.S. government just continues to print, which they probably will, but still, 3 or 4% is a lot better than starting in line to buy 2 loaves of bread, and by the time you get to the first of the line, you have enough to buy half a loaf of bread.
Do you, and this is probably a misuse of the term again, but in the private sector, as we hear people talking about cryptocurrency or digital currency, it hasn't been as attractive to investors as people thought it would be, or at least it seems to be pretty volatile. Do you think that will influence the sale of Wyoming tokens?
I think our sale basically is based off of use plans. And the use plans that were, at one point in time before Trump took the money away from the UN, we were in our third round of talks with the United Nations to actually deploy $50 million of stablecoins in Africa. That was one use plan. We've got other use plans now as far as that we're looking at. And guys, we're totally transparent. So watch the the Stablecoin Commission meetings, because we can go through all of these different ways that we're looking at actually making money. And how you make money essentially is you mint the coin, it goes into circulation, we get all of the like if treasuries are 4%, we get that 4%. It goes to the schools. So that's where it really makes a lot of sense. If you look at it, I had a little conversation with David Pope, who's on the commission, and I said, I think we're going to get to like $2 billion here probably in 10 years. And he looked at me and says, no, Kurt, I think you're wrong. I think we're going to do it in 5. And so I think it has the opportunity to outpace what we're doing. And last year we brought in $1.875 billion that we put into the trust funds in the economy of Wyoming.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to make money that way.
Yeah.
But do you, you mentioned the Stablecoin Commission, and
Yes.
I guess I was unaware of that entity.
Okay.
Is
Well,
that
the Stablecoin Commission, essentially, it has the governor as the chairman, myself and Chrissy Racinas as the elected officials, and then we have 4 subject matter experts. David Pope, he's an accountant, and then Joel Ravel, he came from a hedge fund, and he's working in Jackson now, got out of that. We have a banker on there also.
Is this a statutorily created
Yes,
commission?
it's statutorily created, and we also have an ex-attorney or counsel from Circle who is on it. Yeah, and so and all of these people, some of them were in Wyoming, and now they're all living in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to switch subject matter areas a little bit. The 5 statewide elected officials are also a part of a lot of other state boards
Yes.
and investments. And we have, as Wyoming citizens, have read about some of the meetings, particularly the state land board meetings,
Yes.
becoming a little testy. And I guess I'm just wanting to ask you about, are there ways to do things? I mean, some of it is, of course, personality related, but are there ways to do things differently that would be helpful for these boards and make them more effective?
Actually, we've accomplished those ways already. And where it really works is that if the local communities will reach out to us, and if they've got a project, and we've done that in Jackson, and that was the Kelly parcel. They reached out to us. It probably took 2 years negotiating on that. I think we were getting about less than $5,000 on the lease for an outfitter to run his camp up on top of the mountain. And we ended up with $100 million of buying it. 4 to 8 came from the federal government that actually Donald Trump approved. And then the rest of it came from the local community. And we were able to get that $100 million. Superintendent Dagenfelder wanted to keep it in play so we could buy, oil property rights or property rights in the Powder River Basin. That has never materialized. It's just kind of sitting there. What I wanted to do was to put it into a generational fund. And a generational fund is essentially the most efficient way to make your investments. Get online, look at, get a Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, and he will get in there and they'll say, we made our money by making money with our money. And that's the power of compounding. Einstein said it was the 8th wonder of the world, essentially at $100 million in 24 and a half years at the rate in which our private equity is turning now. We could turn that into $1.744 billion in 24 and a half years. Now, I cut it back to say, well, let's do 30 years at 10%, just because I didn't want to put us just up there to where we had to make that. But you do that for 30 years, and essentially you have an economic engine that never stops.
Let's talk about the SLIB board itself, which is the State Loan and Investment Board.
Yeah.
And it offers loans and grants to communities and groups seeking emergency funding for fire trucks or affordable housing or whatever.
Yeah.
But these funds are limited and the grants are pretty competitive. Do you think there's any changes to how the state helps local communities with these state funds, either in terms of interest rates or limitations on the awards that you think would be effective?
Yeah, I think the most effective way that we can utilize the mineral royalty grants is an education about what the other grant programs are out there, so we can leverage what we have. Because you're right, they are limited, but there are like the rural water development. There's other ones there that we have that are rotating funds, and Selects Water also has a lot of that. But we have to. The thing that I try to do is put it in perspective. We've got about $6 to $8 billion worth of houses that'll probably need to be built in 10 to 12 years. That's just the houses. That's not the infrastructure. And then we have a lot of competition, for the 600 and some million that we get out of our general fund. A lot of that competition is going to be, if we get some of these things that people are putting on the ballot, I don't know how we fund local governments if they lose half their property tax funding. And I think I can come up with enough money to fund the education side of it, but then the legislature is going to have to make a decision about, well, what are we going to do about the infrastructure that we have in here? We put $200 million, 100 federal, 100 state, in a dam. We've got over $700 to $800 million of concrete that's just falling apart on our irrigation districts around the state. The highways are $500 million short of doing their matches. And I can just keep naming the things. Major maintenance, $250 million for state buildings, $250 million for public school buildings, and that's a biennium each. And so these all things are going to be looking for money in a way to actually fund that. I think we need people that and we need folks that vote and understand and talk to the local governments first before they vote on that thing. So
those things would have traditionally been funded with property tax that now is not being levied. Is that fair?
You either don't have, and what I believe is going to happen, and it happened in the early 90s, was that we ran out of money for doing things as far as major maintenance. And I can recall a time when I was on the building commission, and Governor Geringer, and we had a report that we were going to need $1.5 million or something to actually recaulk the sides of the Herschler buildings, those big concrete things that used to hang on the wall. And what we ended up doing, Jim said, well, let's get a couple pallets of caulking and we'll send the boys up there with ladders and we'll get that job done. Well, it did. It worked for a couple, 3 years. They forgot about it. And then when we came in, rather than having to just do the capital, we had to do the Herschler, and $150 million went up to $300 million because we didn't spend the money to keep things the way they should be in major maintenance.
So that is going to be a challenge for the next treasurer, if that be you.
What I tell people, all I'm going to do is two things. I'm going to make money for you. I'm going to do it in a prudent, safe way. I'm going to follow the statutes. I'm going to follow the Constitution. And you think of the land board, there's only 2 people on that land board that actually follow the Constitution. But that aside is that's what I do. I'll make money for you guys. I'll do it the right way. I'll provide stable, adequate funding. The policy issues, those are the people that you elect for the legislature and for the governor. But I'll be there to support you however we can. And I'm going to continue to work on that generational fund, because the numbers on that is you go from $1.744 billion in 31 years, that you get that all the time. You strip off $744 million and give it to the LSRA for whatever the legislature wants to do with it. You take that billion, you reinvest it. In year 61, you've got $17 billion. You take the $7 billion off, and I tell you, folks, that's exponential growth. You have exponential growth in your taxes. That 4% cap, in 18 years, your taxes are going to double. And if you got 4% inflation, in 18 years, your purchasing power will be cut in half. So in 18 years, if we don't change the way we're doing things, then essentially you're going to have 25 cents in the dollar. You're going to have a quarter. And that's what we have for purchasing power. and that's what we have for investments. And that's what we
Sounds like quite a challenge.
That is a challenge, but I tell you, we can do that. We can meet that challenge. We went from 19 billion to 34 billion. I think that if we the thing that we need to do, you want the SLIB board. We don't have a SLIB board in the WRS. Mm-hmm. We set that up so the investment people, the people that actually were the professionals, hired the managers. I couldn't hire one manager 2 years ago. $100 million investment would have turned into $446 million, but I could not hire that manager. And so you thought system, processes, and people, we need to change that system. And Governor Gordon did a remarkable thing when he put in the Investment Funds Committee. And this is the way that, essentially the way that we should do the Business Council. He had people with investment acumen, and each basically set it up so each one of the top 5 could select a selector panel to select the professionals that advise our office. Now we have people that are advising our office, that frankly, we had a New Mexico treasurer at one of our treasurer annual conferences, and he said, I can't get people like this. These guys have billions and more that we have. They get 4 to 5 billion off of the Permian Basin every year. But they had, essentially, he could not figure out how we did that. And folks, it's Jackson Hole. Jackson Hole has all of these retired CEOs, retired hedge fund people. We have the most incredible resource, to advise us on investing. We don't need the SLIB board and folks that don't have the acumen to actually tell us what to do. It was needed at one point in time when we had a treasurer that might not have been able to tie his shoes, But I tell you, folks, I wear slip-ons, but I could tie them if I had laces. Yeah.
Thank you, Treasurer Meyer. I think it's a lot to try to absorb. I've tried in the past. I think I got a little bit more tonight, so appreciate your comments. And I think we're at the end of our time.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. And Marilyn, Jordan, nice to see you again. Folks, it's an open door. You can stop by there anytime. You'll get with Marissa. She'll get you an appointment. Went to school in Laramie. You got a great community, and you got great people here. And we're speaking to all of Wyoming. Wyoming is an amazing state. And you got amazing people that are living here, and that's really the people are our future in this state. And we want to have your kids coming back here, and you guys going to your barbecue and taking them to church. So we can look forward to that because I think you guys have got the strength to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Meyer, for being here. You gave us lots of food for thought. Thank you. Please join us live or virtually on July 16th, tomorrow, for the Superintendent of Public Education Forum here in Albany County Public Library, and on July 22nd in Casper at the Casper College for the Governor Forum, and July 23rd in Casper at Casper College for the United States Congressional Race Forum. Remember that the forums are all being recorded and will be available on the Wyoming League's website, Vote 411, Wyoming Public Media, the WyoFile's website, as well as the Albany County Public Library and their YouTube channels. The primary election is on Tuesday, August 18th. Call your local county clerk's office to confirm that you are registered. If you didn't vote in the general election in 2024, you've been purged from the voting rolls and will need to re-register. Call the clerk's office to confirm the proper identification and the proof of residency documentation necessary to register or re-register. Early voting begins on July 21st at the local elections office. Thank you and have a pleasant remainder of your evening.
That concludes our candidate forum for Secretary of